Welcome back, friends. Lost Sky here, and it's time for the vlog, and it's a downer episode. So if you are not in the right place for this, don't watch it yet. This is an episode dedicated to address, or whatever the right word is, to the depressed and the suicidal that are among us. This is for you guys. This is to you guys and to your friends. That is what this video is. So if you have a friend who's in a bad spot, stick around. If you're in a bad spot, stick around. If you don't feel like a downer episode, come back another time. What I want to do with this episode is to talk about the successes I have had with helping with suicides. That's what I want to talk about. It sounds ridiculous, because it is. But over the last almost decade, I have helped 8 people not commit suicide. Some more direct than others. And I'm just going to give all the advice I can give in this video. So, the last couple months I've been doing in these vlogs a series called the Why series. Why am I this? Why am I that? So, to keep it in that series, this is why do I care about the depressed and the suicidals? And the answer to that is because I am one of you. Now back to what I want to talk about right now. The easy stuff. Let's talk about... So, depression can lead to suicidal thoughts, but I don't know if suicidal thoughts can lead to depression. I feel like you go from one to the other and not the other way. Like, you have to be in a spot to cause you to want to commit suicide. I don't think just, like, oh, you don't just go one day, you're like, oh man, I would really like to be dead. Like, I don't, outside of people joking like that. I feel like it is a progression from depression to suicidal. And not all depressed people become suicidal. I think some people are just not in a great place for a very long time. Now, I could be wrong about that because I did attempt suicide. So, I could be wrong. Maybe all depressed people eventually get to that point. I'm not sure. So, if you have a depressed friend, be worried for sure. See if you can help them out. But if you have a suicidal friend, there is a difference. Then the best advice I can give you for a suicidal friend, depending on how far along they are, is to be there for them and to talk to them. And to talk to them and listen. I think the most important thing is listening. Allowing someone to vent is very important. Why am I talking about this week? Well, because a young man this week was at the edge. And I was just in his group because I'm in a bajillion groups online. I accept everyone. I'm friends or acquaintances with a bajillion people. That's just who I am. So I'm all over the damn place. And one of the groups I'm in, this dude was in a very bad spot. And I talked to various people that were in his group, various friends of his, and some of them asked me to help. They're like, we need to do something about guy. And so I gave the best advice I could. My advice was, you're his friend. There's multiple times I said this. Like, the best people are the people he trusts. If you listen to him and talk it out with him, you will help him come down. And I was there too, trying to say little things here and there, but really, I wasn't the one who was going to reach him. It was going to be the ones who were closer to him that were going to reach him. And they did reach him. Thankfully, he is alive to this day. I don't think I said this earlier, because I said in another episode, I said, I've prevented 8 suicides. I don't count this as one because I didn't do anything. I didn't really have a hand in this. I just said, I gave advice. I'm like, okay, someone interested, listen to all these things. And over a course of hours, they got him down. They brought him down. This is the thing about suicidal people is they're just in a very, very bad and intense spot. So let me describe depression and very loud car in the background. Let me describe depression and suicidal thoughts in this analogy that I've made, this metaphor I've made, and that is, it is a flood, it is a maelstrom, it is a deluge. You're in a room. It fills with water. Sometimes it fills slowly, sometimes it fills quickly. But just standing in it gets your ankles, gets your knees, gets to your waist. It goes fire up, up, and up, and up. Sometimes it doesn't get that far. Sometimes it goes up a little bit. You don't feel great. You know, you're wet, you're cold, you're not feeling in a good position, you don't feel great. And then eventually it subsides, drains out. Sometimes it gets way the hell up here. It's up to your neck and you're getting really worried about it. And that worry just makes it increase. And you just, at a point where you're just sucking air, you're barely getting anything. And you're just treading. You're just very close to being in a very bad spot. But eventually it drains. And suicidal? When you're drowning in it, when you're submerged, when your head is under the water. And when you're at that point, it's very hard to get out of that spot. When you're at that point, some of the water drains, but not all of it's gone. And it comes right back up. And you're right back under it again. And you get out of it, and you're under it again. And you're out of it, and you're out of it, you're under it again. I can say this because I was at that point. Where every day was sometimes casual, sometimes more serious. The thought of, be better if I was gone. Be better for my family, be better for me, be better for everyone if I wasn't around. I had those thoughts. I said those things out loud. That's a very tough point to be at. And when someone's at that point, they're very hard to reach, but they can be reached. 7 of the suicides I prevented were just through words. And that was it. Just through talking. Some of these people that I helped, they came to me. They're like, they're in a really bad spot. They're at the edge. And they don't know what to do. They're just like, they really want to do it. And for some reason, and this is because of the first one. And this is because some of these were because of the first one. Because I helped someone, people knew, and they came to me. It was a weird reputation to have at that point. And a couple of these were serendipity. A couple of these were, I was just there. And that's all they needed. They just needed someone to be there. To listen to them. To hear them out. And to, oh God, those took so long. One of these, it was just sitting and listening to a kid for 12 hours. It was so exhausting. So very exhausting. Now the thing is, they could have been lying the whole time. This is the thing. This is one that I don't think about too much. I'm like, why even bother wondering or worrying about it? It was on Discord. I don't remember how, honestly, I don't know how old he was. You could make a guess if you wanted. How old this dude was. Just one of the random Discords I was in. He was like, is anyone on? And I was like, I'm on, what's up? And he was like, I just need the VC, just need the voice chat. I'm like, alright, okay. So I go on there. And he straight up was like, he's got a gun to his head. And he really wants to do it. It's like, oh shit, okay. Well, this is going to be a day. And I just sat there and listened to, honestly, some of this was really, here's the thing, this is very important. If you sit there and listen to a friend talk about their depression, talk about the suicidal thoughts, some of it's going to be really dumb, and you have to just listen to it. Because some of the crap I was depressed about was really dumb. You're just letting them vent. You're letting them let it all out. And sometimes when they let it all out, they can recognize themselves how silly some of it is. Problem, sometimes because it's so silly, it compounds it. Because for me, some of my depression came from guilt. And so I would feel guilty for being depressed. And that just made things worse. And some people will be like that. And then you have to work through that. I just listened to him just go on and on about so many things about his life and about his family and his parents and his friends and just hated everything about himself. There wasn't some epic speech or anything like that. It was just listening. was an all-day thing. I can't remember. I wanted to do some sort of project, and I wasn't doing that project, because obviously. At some point, he just went like, dude, I gotta pee. And he was like, you know what? Yeah. I'm not gonna do it. He didn't do it. To the best of my knowledge, he still hasn't done it. It's been years. I haven't seen him in ever, but it was just some rando. If I'm lucky for that moment, that's all it took, and he's not going to do it, but I don't know now. And I can't really think about it because there's no way to check and find out if he's okay or not, especially with COVID and everything. Some were shorter conversations, but that was the long one. That was the most draining one. And it was just listening and talking and listening and listening and talking and listening. Allowing them to vent. And that was the majority. Like, 7 out of the 8 were just listening and talking. Just being there for a person. And that was enough to prevent their suicide. I would hope that if someone else was there, maybe they'd stop thinking about it. I was just the dude there. I was the dude there. They talked, I listened, and they came out. And this is why I care about kindness and being kind and being open and being helpful to other people. It's because sometimes that's all it takes. Because I've seen it work. Let's talk about me now. We talked about helping others with their problems. Let's see, how can the self help themselves get out of it? The problem is, I'm not a good example. Share. That's the part I struggle with this, is I'm not a good example of how to get out of it. I'm a good example of how to deal with it after, but not how to get out of it in the middle of it. So I can only give one advice from this. I realize this version, this take is, best advice I can give is don't have a goddamn gun. Because if I had a gun, I would not be here today. I know it. Let's build it up a little bit. So, I already forget if I said in this take, I wasn't depressed until college. I was not depressed until college. I think I was still just a child, and when you're younger, you don't think too much, and you don't worry too much, so you don't get depressed. At least not for me. High school kids getting depressed all the time now, apparently. I wasn't depressed in high school. I was carefree as balls in high school. In college is where I got depressed. And I think that's because just my future was in my hands finally. And I had to worry about what I was doing, what's going to happen. And so that probably was a big part of it. I think my depression stems from the pressure of life and the guilt that was pressed upon me through my family, through my religion, because I was Catholic. So very much a lot of guilt there, because a lot of my depression was guilt-based. It was like, you're too dumb for this, you shouldn't be, like, you're not from good cloth, you're not someone who deserves good things. I had voices in my head telling me, you deserve this, you deserve to be depressed, you deserve awful things, you deserve to not be alive anymore. Those were voices in my head. And it was like that for years, just crying, and it just getting worse and worse and worse within myself. And eventually it boiled over. Like, I was able to live with depression, as bad as it was. It was killing me slowly, though, because it was a lot of stress. I felt a lot of pain. Like, mental pain manifests physically. It really does, because I would feel a lot of pressure in my chest, and it would spread from the center out, and it hurt like hell. And it was all caused by just stress and depression. But then there was a point in life where it was miserable for months. Absolute miserable for months, and it hit a boiling over point, and then I attempted suicide. And the thing is, what I hate about my example is, I only survived because of my method. And I'm not going to go into detail on it. I can't, because Jinx edits this, and I don't want her to think about that again. But if it was a gun, it would be over. And the only reason why I survived it is because of how long it took. Because what was I talking about earlier? Venting, it's time. It's the person is getting out of drowning because they're talking, because they're venting. It's giving them room to breathe. That is what you're doing when you're listening to them. And this method was so slow that by time, the the suicidal thoughts were slowly draining away because of the method I used to kill myself. It's the only reason why I'm alive. That's it. I wish I could say it was because of my friends or because of this and that. No, I isolated myself hard in preparation for this. But I was very slow about it, and I think it was. I can do that at least. I can give that excuse at least. It was because of thinking about family, thinking about Jinx, thinking about things I did care about. It did make me take longer about doing the thing I was doing because I was fighting within myself doing this thing. But just because it was so slow, because of how slow I did it, I was able to get air. I was able to find air and breathe for a very long time. I forget how many hours it was just sitting there after it. I was just there. There are a number of ways to be depressed, to be suicidal. There's a number of mental issues you can have. For me, I think it was very much societal, emotional, upbringing, just all these things brought me to my point. Interactions with people, like all that brought me to my point. It brought me there. And luckily I didn't die. And so I have been combating it. I've been fighting it ever since, and I've been doing a lot better. Like, I'd say my depression never goes higher than waist high, thankfully. I think the last time I thought I'd be better off dead was maybe 1 or 2 years ago. At this point, yeah, 2 years ago. It was pre-pandemic. I think different people have different ways to cope with depression, or to be in a better place. And for me, and this is what I've been doing, is a number of things. One is, I will say, I raised the floor, or added more drains, whatever the right word for this analogy is, where it doesn't get as high on me anymore, is Kirby. I embraced the fact that I enjoy Kirby. I embraced my fandom. I embraced what I enjoy. I embrace this little guy because he's a little smiling guy. It's hard to be too depressed when you have this little smiling guy smiling back at you. That's why I surround myself in him. I surround myself in this little happy fellow because it does help with baseline depression. It really does. It's not the answer for everyone, but it's the answer for me. The other answer is helping is just trying to improve who I am, what I am. Why I work out more now. It's why I use a diet now. I'm trying to improve myself. Fiction helps too. There's always stories of adversity and things like that help, or real life stories of adversity can help you as well. And there's a character. I can't believe I'm bringing this up. Belmare from One Piece. Her argument, she says, you gotta keep going because the chances for good things are always out there if you just keep going. So I just keep going. I keep living because the chance of more fun times are up ahead. There's always a chance. Life isn't just a straight line. It's not just a downward slope either, or an upward slope. There's good and bad all the time. And we raise our chances of better times by just putting ourselves in a better place. So let's wrap this up. TLDR is here. So I care about depressed and suicidal people because I have been there. And it has shaped me in that this is why I have made myself available to others. to talk to is because it has worked. I have prevented suicides by just being there for people. It is exhausting to do this. It is tiring, but if you care about other people, it is worth it. If you care about your friend, you try to be there for them, of course. Sometimes life is busy, though, and you're not able to do it. Of course. And it's not your fault. I'll say this. It's not your fault if your friend still goes through with it, by the way. It's not your fault. It's not. You tried. Some people are just too far gone, because that's what I realized. As much as my friendships mattered, as much as things were important, as the hard thing to think about and say is, they didn't stop it necessarily. I don't want to admit that. I want to say they contributed. I want to say Jinx contributed to me not dying. It's important that I say that. Especially with all the years leading up to that point. And the years after. Jinx has been my friend for 13 years. Or 14 years. God, it's been so long now. When did I graduate again? Jinx has been my friend for a very long time. And it would be a disservice to say she did not help me through a lot of things in my life. God, I can't do another take of this. Back to TLDRs. Just be there for you. Just be there. Be there if you can. I think that's the best one. Just talking, listening, not making fun of their problems, just listening. Really internalize their problems. And see if there's a way to navigate through it. Like, really a way to navigate through it, not just platitudes. Platitudes don't do anything. When you feel patronized, it doesn't make it any better for the depressed person. I think it's the only way to end it. That's the only way to end it. That's the advice I can give you. Be there for someone, listen to them, talk with them. Best you can do. You won't always succeed, but it's the best you can do. This is the royal you, the all you. Some people will succeed in preventing a friend from dying. Some people won't. Sometimes people are just in too far a place to stop it. Or they're just in a spot where you just can't. There are people where their life has a death sentence and they just want it to be done sooner. Sometimes you just can't stop it. But sometimes you can, and so that's why it's worth doing. It's worth trying, because sometimes you can stop the suicide. Sometimes you can put someone in a better place by talking with them. That's the entire point, now that I think about it, of the suicide hotlines. They're there to talk. They're there to listen. That's the entire point. Holy crap, that's the entire point. I just realized that. That's it. That's the vlog. That's it. No idea what next week's topic is going to be, but that is this topic. That is this one. And I hope this is helpful. That's the entire point of this video, is to be helpful. That's it. I talked, you listened, and I hope it helped somebody. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.